In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I am very grateful to God for allowing me and three sisters that we travel together to join you. As you know, unfortunately, war resumed. You can say 3 days ago. And then we said we would not cancel. So we were just planning to go by road to Turkey and then come. Then it stopped, so we managed to travel by plane. And again, unfortunately, last night there was attack on Iran. So just in between, there was a gap of 24 hours that allowed us to come by plane. So we thank God and we pray for peace. And we dedicate our day to God. I'm very delighted to be back to Tangaza, where we have, thanks to God, very good relation, as Father Innocent mentioned, from 2017. And I'm very happy also that some of my Focolare brothers are here, Professor Benny, Professor Roberto, Carlo. And also, I am very hopeful that I will make many new friends. Some of our also brothers and sisters from COM are here, and Marwa from Canada, and some people are joining us. So God willing, tomorrow you will meet some more people. So this has been a tradition that in the last day of this summer course, I will speak about unity of God and unity in God. So I would like to start with some introduction. Thank you. I would like to start with some introduction to how I was involved in Christian, Muslim, or Shia Christian, Shia Catholic, Shia Benedictine, Shia Focolare relations. Because unless you know the background, you may not really appreciate the reflections, because the reflections that I'm going to share with you are not based on reading only, studying only. They are also very much inspired by our friendship and brotherhood and even unity with some Christians. So I start with a little introduction to how I was involved in this. And for us, this relation between Christians and Muslims is very, very important. This is not something we do it when we don't have other things to do. Unfortunately, some people do dialogue when they don't have other things to do. They don't think it's a priority. Or they do it as a kind of fashion or formality, or, you have to say we are doing this, otherwise people feel you are, close-minded. So we have to do something. But no, for us, this is very, very important. As Father Innocent mentioned, for example, one of our activities is this 3-week summer course, followed by Week of Unity in Mariapolis, Piero. And this has become part of our formation. So all seminarians in our institute have to have this experience. And this is very important. So this is not that we have two kinds of formations, two kinds of programs. One for our seminarians, one for our Shia brothers and sisters, and one when we meet Christians. No, this is very central in our internal formation as well. So all our seminarians in our institute, IIIS, should have this experience, plus those who study online with me, they are offered this experience. For us, this is very central, and you will realize more why this is so central for us. So it was during the war, we had 40 days of war, and then there was ceasefire. So in the holy months of Ramadan, in one of our board meetings, Sheikh Khodami asked that Father Innocent needs to know, are we going to carry on with the summer course this year, or we cannot have it? And I said, please tell Father Innocent that God willing, we will carry on, even if there is war, even if the airports are closed, we will carry on, and we will come by road to have this. So even war cannot stop us. Even, I had a fraction in my toe a few weeks ago. I said, I will go anyway. Even they told me you shouldn't walk. I said, I will go. Nothing should stop us, because this is what I think is call of God. God wants us Muslims and Christians to be together and to offer our testimony together. Actually, I was thinking, not only war should not stop us, indeed, when there is war, we should have more determination to carry on. So when there is conflict, when there is war, when there is tension, actually, we are urged to do more so that we can make sure that in future we will not have wars, or at least we would not be giving people ability to use our names and say this is a religious war or etc. Okay, a little bit about my background. So I was seriously involved in Christian-Muslim dialogue from late 90s. I was a student in the seminary in Qom. I also had done my bachelor's and master's in Western philosophy at Tangaza University. So I was given a scholarship to do my PhD in the UK. So in October 1996, I arrived in the UK to pursue my PhD in the field of moral philosophy. And my topic was ethical relativism. So with my wife, and at that time I had 2 children, we went to Manchester. When I was in Manchester, I was, of course, busy with my study. And as a foreigner, it's, challenging. When you want to study, you have your family, your kids have to go to school, etc. Plus, I was asked to be imam of the Shia community in one of the centers in Manchester Islamic Institute. That was another challenge because we had large body of students there. At that time, there were about 200 PhD students from Iran in Manchester. But because there was no cleric, I had to accept this. But none of these challenges stopped me from seeing that there is great potential for knowing more about Christianity. My study was not about religion, it was about philosophy. I was involved in community affairs, but I thought this is good time to know more about Christianity. I had studied about Christianity in university, in seminary, but I never had personal relations with Christians because, as you know, in Iran, we have very small Christian population, is maybe like 0.5% or something, and they live in certain places, but in Qom, there is no Christian community. So I wanted to have some personal acquaintance with Christianity. And this is what I advise everyone. No matter how many books even good books by good experts you have read. This is not enough. Sometimes meeting a person or a nation or a religious community, even for half an hour, can be more useful than reading hundreds of pages. Because we are human beings, and something happens when we meet. Our souls interact. But when I'm just reading, then there is great chance that I may not develop real appreciation of the topic of this book or this text. Even if the writer supposedly is a fair and balanced and knowledgeable person of the field. So I thought now we should use this opportunity to know more about Christianity, and Christianity as lived and practiced, not as just written in the books. And we looked around, and it was not easy to find, because in 90s there were not many forums for dialogue, and not every person, even in a generally Christian, city, not many people are really practicing. It's a very secular atmosphere. So we had heard about Focolare movement in Italy, and my wife had a friend in Italy who knew Focolare very well, and we asked if the Focolare are also available in the UK. And we were contacted then by one of our very dear friends who passed away recently, Marite, may God bless her soul. So from Liverpool, she came to Manchester. She's the first Christian guest we had in our house. And we had a very good time. And then she told us there is a day program in Liverpool at Hope University, which is a kind of private university, mainly for Catholics. And we attended for the first time a day program organized by Christians. This is about 97. And thanks to God, we were not distracted by differences. I will explain more about how differences play with our mind. So there's great chance that when you go to a place and you meet people of different language, different color, different religion, you would be distracted by differences, and you cannot really objectively function. But thanks to God, we were able to explore deeper commonality between us as Shia Muslims and Christians. And we realized how much we share love for God. My wife was very moved, and she was, in tears sometimes, because for some time we were in a secular society, and outside our community, we were not hearing about God and love for God, etc. But in that day, everyone was there out of love for God and love for each other. And something very historical for me happened, and this is to show how small things can lead to important things. And maybe during this course, you had lots of these moments, and I hope you grab those opportunities to, look for establishing long-term friendship. So I was sitting next to a priest who was also a Benedictine monk and from Focolare, the late Father Jonathan. So this is the first time in my life I'm sitting next to a priest for a whole day. Even for a short period of time, I was not sitting next to a priest before, not because I didn't want, there was no opportunity. But now we were sitting together, and I was so comfortable with him. I didn't think, oh, he's a Christian priest, I am a Muslim imam, we shouldn't sit together, we shouldn't, talk together, or at least people should not see us together. No, we had very nice brotherly time. And among the things that we discussed was that I told him I would like to visit Christian seminaries because I have some background in seminary studies. Can you help me with visiting some seminaries? And the late Father Jonathan said, we can go to Ampleforth, which is not a seminary, but a place for the formation of the monks. So it's the largest monastic community in the UK, and they are all Benedictines. So he talked to the Abbot Timothy, and we went there, and we had very good discussions with the monks, with the abbot, others. I very much enjoyed their prayers. They have, 5 offices of prayers, and it was very interesting. And the late Abbot Timothy said, Muhammad, whenever you like, you can come with your family. So sometime with my family, we went there, sometime for 2 days, sometime 1 week, especially because of what I will mention later about her study. So our relation with Focolare continued, our relation with Benedictines started, and then we also developed relation with Anglican Christians. We visited, for example, St. John's College in Durham University, which is for training Anglican priests. I met Bishop Smith, who was involved in dialogue with Muslims in Anglican Church. So I used every opportunity to know more about Christianity. And one of the beautiful experiences was to take part in Mariapolis, temporary Mariapolis, because, Focolare have permanent Mariapolis centers. They have also temporary. So for 1 week, there were about, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 700 Christians in Lake District in the UK. It was a summer holiday, but also mixed with, religious activities, reflections, practices, etc. It was a combination of fun and spirituality and family time, etc. And we were the only Muslim family among about 700 Christians. And again, we were not distracted by our differences. Differences are there. No one can deny, no one can, estimate the differences, but we need to discover commonalities. So that was very good experience, and based on that, my wife decided to do for her master's dissertation work on love in Christianity and Islam. And that was one more reason to go to monastery to use their library. They had very good library. So sometime for a week we were there, and she was using the library and discussing with the monks, because she wanted to make sure that she has understood Christian perspective properly. So if I want to understand someone from another faith, it's very important to check my findings with the people of the same faith. So this continued till in 1999. We were invited by Focolare movement to go to Italy. There was a meeting with Muslim friends of the movement. There were more than 300 Muslims from different countries. And also Vatican had organized some programs for the new millennium. This is eve of new millennium, 1999. So we were attending also some of the programs in Vatican. We met in person the late John Paul II. And we had lots of programs in Castel Gandolfo, where there's International Center for the Focolare Movement. And also we visited Loppiano, which Father Innocent also mentioned, which is very important place for all of us. And I hope you get a chance to know more about Loppiano. So we had a day visit. So all these 300, more than 300 Muslims with buses, we visited Loppiano. But from before, we told our friend Marite, who was with us, please tell them that we want to stay longer and want to know more about Loppiano, because Loppiano always was very special for me, even before visiting it. So we stayed 2-3 nights in Loppiano. And then it was around, so I'm trying to talk 1 minute about each year, so I'm very brief. So it was about 2000, or exactly 2000, 2001, this academic year. After several years of friendship with Benedictines, Abbot Timothy told me, Muhammad, are you willing to talk about Islam to our community? And they had no relation with Muslims before, so I was the first Muslim who was visiting them and making friendship. So I said, yes, I'm happy. He said, what are you going to say? Okay, so first he said, are you happy to talk about Islam? I said, yes. Then he said, what are you going to say? So with a little thinking, because I had not prepared myself for, the outlines. So I said, I can give introduction to Islam and then talk about Islamic spirituality and then end with some practical instructions given by Muslim mystics. And he was very happy and he said, why you don't give 3 talks instead of 1 talk? 1 introduction to Islam, 1 on spirituality, 1 about practical instructions. So I used to go to drive to Ampleforth, give a talk, meet monks, have dinner together, sleep, have breakfast, and then drive back. And thanks to God, when I gave these presentations about Islam, these monks, and many of them were in their 60s, 70s, and they were not very much in touch with Muslim, because they were in a very rural, far remote place in Yorkshire, North Yorkshire. Abbot Timothy used to say, anything outside York is foreigner. So when I had this presentation about Islam from the first time, then the monks kept telling, this is what we have in the rule of Saint Benedict. This is what we have in the rule of Saint Benedict. So we found lots of similarities. In 2001, I was going back to Qom. You must by now have heard many things about Qom during these 3 weeks. So this is the place where there is shrine of Lady Masuma, and there is also largest center for learning for Shia Muslims. So when I was going back to Qom, I invited one of the monks to visit us. He was very well educated. He had a PhD in theology, and we had lots of discussions. So I thought it's good if he visits us, gives some lectures to our seminarians, and also we can develop our relation. So he said I should seek permission from the abbot. So when he went to abbot to seek permission, abbot said, I want to come myself as well. So 2 of them visited us in 2002. Okay? So by that time, it's about 5 years that we are friends. So they visited us in Qom. We organized for them lectures. We advertised in the city. People from outside also came from other seminaries. And they were very happy. Then another moment that maybe we couldn't see its significance was when we were in the car. We were in a car driving between Qom and Tehran towards the end of their stay, and we said, let's see what can we do, what is next. Many times in relations, you ask your partners, what is the next step? What should we do next? So we thought maybe we can organize a conference between Catholics and Shia in the UK. And they welcomed the idea. They said we can have it in Ampleforth because they had very good facilities in Ampleforth. They have only 5 cricket grounds. It's a big valley. They have, boarding school. So there are lots of facilities in Ampleforth. But I said, unfortunately, not many Shia live there in that area. Many Shia are mostly in large cities. So they said, we go back to the UK and try to find a partner in London. So we do part of it in London, part of it in Ampleforth. So thanks to God, and I say this and I mean it, thanks to God, although neither them nor me had any experience in organizing interfaith dialogue, we have been doing things naturally, organically, just following our reason and heart, but we are not trained for that. But thanks to God, in July 2003, we had the first Catholic Shia dialogue in the UK. One day at Heathrow College, which used to run in London, unfortunately it's closed down. This belonged to Jesuits. So Jesuits were also involved. So we invited 100 people, 50-50 from each side. We had a day program at Heathrow College. And then we went to Ampleforth, 2020. So a smaller group, we went to Ampleforth from Sunday till Wednesday midday. So altogether, for 5 days, we were together. We had prayers, we had discussions, we had meals, everything together. Of course, everyone was also doing their own prayers separately, but we had also prayers together. And thanks to God, it was very well considered even by outside this small community that we were developing. I don't know if you are familiar with the Tablet. Tablet is an English Catholic journal which is very famous in UK and Ireland. It was considered as the first major British encounter of the Catholic theologians with the Iranian Shiite thinkers and theologians. This is July 2003. We had also contribution from Archbishop, then and now Cardinal Michael Fitzgerald. We also had head of Pontifical Institute for Arabic and Islamic Studies, PISAI, and we had people from other, Catholic communities, but mainly were from UK and from Iran. In 2004, we published the first volume of Catholic Shia Dialogue. And also, again, I invited them to visit Iran. This time, 4 people visited. 2 Benedictines and 2 people from Heathrow College. One was monk, one was not monk. 2005, we had the second Catholic Shia dialogue. 2007, the third. And then Abbot Timothy moved to Italy, so we had the gap, then we resumed. And from this round 4, monastic interreligious dialogue, Dean Mead was involved. God willing, you will meet, hopefully tomorrow, Father Cyprian, who is the new General Secretary of Monastic Interreligious Dialogue. He's based in the US. And he was supposed to be here and have presented today, but his flight is delayed. So you will meet him. So from 4th round, Monastic Interreligious Dialogue as an organization was involved, although from the beginning was with monks. So the round 4 was in Sant Anselmo in Rome. This is where the abbot primate is residing, and they have a place for the Benedictine monks to study. And round 5 was in Qom, 6 was in Assisi, 7 was in Qom and Mashhad. One day after breakfast, we had discussion where should be the next station. One of our members, Father Maximilian, he's from Kenya, so he suggested we can have the next round in Kenya. Always we met in Europe and Iran. We welcome the idea of coming to Kenya. So in September 2017, for the first time, we came to Kenya with our Benedictine friends, and we were staying in Subiaco Retreat Center for the Benedictine sisters, and we are still very good friends, and we have also meeting of Shia sisters and Benedictine sisters in this weekend. Then we had 2 half-day programs at Tangaza University. September, which year? 2017. Okay? So we are close to completing 10 years of friendship and brotherhood with Tangaza. I stop here, I go a little bit back to our relation with Focolare because I have to bring it also to this year so that you understand what was happening. So with Focolare, of course, I try to visit them everywhere I travel, in US, Canada, up to Philippines. Everywhere I was traveling, I was trying to visit them, visit Shia community. So we started taking also groups to Italy so that they can know more about the Catholic Church and about Focolare. In one of my trips with some PhD students from the institute that I used to work before IIIS, Imam Khomeini Education Research Institute, I met Roberto, who is here, and actually we had lunch in their house. And Roberto maybe mentioned this story, I don't know, because he had his talk here also. So I said, Roberto, I'm thinking of bringing a group of ladies to Italy from seminary. And can you help? And with his help and the help of the Center for Interreligious Dialogue, he was at that time male responsible for Center for Interreligious Dialogue. So thanks to God, we managed to have a visit for the ladies from Seminary for Women. And then I invited Roberto and Christina Lee, who was female co-responsible for the Center for Dialogue, and Stefania and Paul. So 4 people visited us in Qom from Focolare. And then we discussed with Roberto the idea of sending a group of these women who visited Italy and Lopiano for 4 weeks for a small formation. And thanks to God, they welcomed, they worked on it, and that happened. That was, I think, in February, March 2014. So women seminarians stayed in Lopiano for 4 weeks. And then many important things happened, I don't have time to mention, which led to Professor Piero Coda inviting me to talk to a group of master's students who had a course on interreligious dialogue, and they wanted people of the same faith to talk about them. So in April 2016, April 2016, I went to Sofia University. We have Professor Benny, Professor Roberto from Sofia. So I went there to talk about interreligious dialogue from Muslim perspective. And then I met Professor Piero Coda, and I suggested to him to talk together in a very friendly and informal way about unity. Because, Focolare believe in the charisma of unity, and they're very committed to establishing unity. And I said to Professor Piero Coda, we are both committed to unity. I'm sure about you. You have dedicated your life to this. I am maybe committed. I think I am committed. I cannot be sure about myself, but I'm sure that you are dedicated. But I feel we are stuck. We are not going forward that much. After becoming good friends, it seems we are stopped. I suggested we can talk together, not officially, just as brothers, bring our resources together, and ask God to guide us. Because God certainly is going to guide us if we really struggle for understanding. If you say to God, I know what to do, but I appreciate your guidance. No, this is not good invitation. If you say to God, I am desperate for receiving your guidance. I have exhausted whatever is available, but I need something more from you. Then God is going to be guiding us. But I said to, what time is it, Sister Ma? What time? 10? Okay. 10:30, please let me know. If I say to God, please listen very carefully. I don't know if this was said between a Muslim and a Christian before. I said, I cannot say to God honestly. Are you here? Are you following me? If you missed anything, but please don't miss this part. So, I said, I cannot say to God honestly. I did everything possible to understand your will if I only read Muslim texts and discuss with Muslims. And you cannot also say to God honestly that you did everything possible for understanding His will if you only read Christian texts and discuss with Christians. Because we know that God has graciously and generously inspired different communities. We have had Christian saints, Muslim saints. We have Christian scripture, we have Muslim scripture. For sure, God has been guiding. I'm not saying in the same way, but more or less has been guiding all His people. So I cannot say to God, I only want guidance through Muslim mouth or mind, or only through Christian mouth or mind. We want guidance from God, no matter where this guidance is coming from. It's from God. It can be from a Christian, from a Muslim, or from someone from outside. Even we cannot be excluding the chance that maybe God speaks to us from another source. So, with our unity, we should invite God to talk to us. Professor Piero Coda is very established Catholic theologian, and he is the founder. He's now not the president, but he was the founder president of Sophia University. So he's very experienced, very knowledgeable, but also very spiritual and very much detecting moments of God. Later, when we had a conference in Castel Gandolfo, we had a panel. He said, when Muhammad suggested this, from what I had learned from Chiara Lubich, I realized that this was coming from God. So he welcomed the idea, and Benny was there. So we have witness here. He was helping with translation. And he said, let's do it. And he asked me, what should we call this? I didn't know he was going to accept and then asking for a name. So just when he said, what should we call it? I had a little bit of pause. And then it came to my mind, Wings of Unity. So we called it Wings of Unity. And the reason is because even if you have one big wing, you cannot fly. With two small wings, you can fly. But with even one big wing, you cannot fly. God has plans for us, human beings, that for those great plans of God, neither Christians alone nor Muslims alone can implement those plans. Whatever we were able to do on our own, we have already done it. But future is for us if we work together, because God has bigger plans for humanity. If we want to reach universal fraternity, now we need Muslims and Christians to work together. So we need two wings. So in April 2016, so we just passed the 10th anniversary of Wings of Unity. And Professor Benny is writing, he has almost finished, a manuscript on Wings of Unity. And I would like to request him if he can a little bit share with us, even if it is 15, 20 minutes today, about his manuscript. And he will talk about it tomorrow more in St. Paul's University. So we embarked on Wings of Unity from April 2016. And then the very first round was July 2016. What was the theme? Unity of God and unity in God. Okay? And one of the things we discussed was the idea of organizing some programs for the youths. Because by that time, we had known each other for more than 18 years, 19 years. But our youths may not be that patient to do things for 18, 19 years to see the results. And we have to pave the way for them. So we organized the first program for the youths inspired by this spirit of Wings of Unity in August 2017 in Tonadico. Hopefully I will show you a clip of that. So in August 2017, there were more than 50 Catholic and Shia youths in Tonadico for a week. And it was amazing. Some of these people for the first time met someone from another faith. But because they saw unity among us, they could quickly plug in. And They made very important comments, impressions. Some of them, even their life changed. For example, we had a young person from Scotland, coming from a Catholic family, but had lost touch with religion. He had just come maybe for, like a summer activity. But he was so much moved that he decided then to pursue religious life, and then he is now a Focolarino. So meeting with the Muslims didn't make him lose his faith. Actually helped him to rediscover his faith and become a dedicated person. Or there was another person, a lady, who was in the process of discernment, and then she decided to join Focolare, Talita. So this was the first program we had for the youths, July 2017. Only a few days after that, we came to Kenya, September 2017, with lots of energy from that beautiful program, Tonadiko. And the theme here was unity of God and unity in God. Because Wings of Unity is like the laboratory. God helps us to build something, and then we take it to different parts of the world. Kenya has been very welcoming, very fertile. So we had 2 half-day programs in Tangaza University in the main hall downstairs. And they very much loved the idea. The chancellor of university at that time said, I was transformed. Transformed not in the sense of converting to a new faith. No, transformed in his own faith. Because we all need to convert, but to better versions of our own faith. So Tangaza suggested that we should have every year something under the theme of unity of God and unity in God. And then, as Father Innocent mentioned, we had conference, and then these summer courses started. And this is the 7th summer course. If there was no COVID, it was the 9th. So our relation with Tangaza is developing, but it is one of the offshoots of Wings of Unity. Our relation with Focolare is growing. We have had many projects in Italy and outside. For example, we have Week of Unity here in Kenya. We had Week of Unity in Lopiano. Last December was the last one we had there. We had Weekend of Unity in the UK. We had a panel with Roberto and Rita in Canada in World Congress of Religions. So we do lots of things together inspired by this idea of unity. And the very last theme that we explored was the idea of the School of God, that if I get chance, I may talk about it. So what I shared with you in this first part was an introduction to how I was involved. And I hope it helps you understand that for me, this is very, very special. I think this is a great gift of God, one of the best gifts I have received from God, that God has put me in touch with some true Christians. There are many Muslims, but they are not all true Muslims. There are many Christians, but they are not all true Christians. And if you are lucky, if you work hard, if you can find true faithful people, then you can see God in their life. Especially one of the greatest works of God is unity. If you see people have been able to establish unity, you can be sure that this is God at work. So, based on almost 3 decades of working closely for bringing Muslims and Christians together, and having lots of friends from Christians that I am sure about their commitment, about their devotion, sincerity, I have developed some reflections. So, although I have my study in theology and philosophy, and I've always been thinking and studying and teaching, but with the help of these experiences and lots of discussions that we have had, I am now able to see how Muslims and Christians should relate to each other in a new light, which is supported by our classic theology, by our spirituality, but also by real life examples and experiences. And when you see your theology, philosophy, spirituality, real life experiences all comply with each other, there is unity, then you can feel confident to share. So, inshallah, after the break, I will start sharing with you some reflections about Muslim-Christian relations and about the idea of unity. I can say I have moved from dialogue to unity. We can still be functioning at the level of dialogue with new people, but with some people, we are at the level of unity. So I thank you very much for your attentive listening and following. And we will have a break, and we can then start with questions if you have any questions. And then after receiving your questions, then I will start the second part. Thank you very much.